Hare Krishna, everybody. Nice to see you all once again. Thank you for joining. So this is Krishna Dasa. Welcome you all. Today's session. Today we're going to cover Shlokas 4.29. And before we begin, I'll say the prayer to Guru and God. Om Agyanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurum Militamena Tasmai Shri Guru. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Was somebody saying something? Did I interrupt somebody? Okay. So today we are going to do 4.29 to 4.33. Can you please keep your book open on 4.29?
Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay, I'll start playing the shlokas.
Apane juhvati pranam pranopanam tatha pare प्राणापानगति रुद्ध्वा प्राणायामपरायणाः अपरे नियताहाराः प्राणान् प्राणेषु जुह्वति सर्वेप्येते यज्ञविदो यज्ञक्षपितकल्मषाः यज्ञशिष्टामृतभुजो यान्ति ब्रह्म सनातनम् नायं लोकोऽस्त्य यज्ञस्य कुतोऽन्यः कुरु सत्तमा एवं बहुविधा यज्ञा वितता ब्रह्मणो मुखे कर्मजान् विद्धितान् सर्वान् एवं ज्ञात्वा विमोक्ष्यसे श्रेयान् द्रव्यमयाद्यज्ञात् ज्ञानयज्ञः परन्तप सर्वं कर्माखिलं पार्थ ज्ञाने परिसमाप्यते.
I think today Minalji is going to read the translations.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
4.29. Some offer the outgoing breath into the incoming breath, while others offer the incoming breath into the outgoing breath. Some arduously practice pranayama and restrain their incoming and outgoing breaths. They are known as pranayama yogis. 4.30. Still others curtail their food intake and offer their breath into their life energy as a sacrifice. All these knowers of sacrifice have their impurities destroyed by these sacrifices. 4.31. Those who consume the nectar remaining from the sacrifice attain the eternal Brahma. O best of Guru, those who do not perform sacrifice can find no happiness in the world or the next. 4.32. In this way, various types of sacrifices are prescribed in the Vedas. Understand them all to result from the action of consciousness. Knowing this, you will be liberated. 4.33. O chastisier of the enemy, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all, O son of Partha, all actions in their entirety culminate in knowledge. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. So in the previous verses, Shri Krishna mentioned the various yogas, austerities, penances, etc. He said this is what people practice and how success in all of them was based on the willpower, your own willpower. And then Shri Krishna explained the difference between them and Bhakti Yoga, because he said in Bhakti, the success doesn't depend on your willpower, but the success depends on atma-samarpan, self-surrender. And when we direct our senses to God. So this was the fundamental difference, Krishna says, between all other yogas and Bhakti Yoga. Here he is describing all the various pranayama practices done by yogis. Now, that is what he means by sacrificing the inward breath and the outward breath and all of that. So he's explaining very different types of pranayama. Now I just want to call out, prana. Sometimes people think prana means it is just breath, but that is a misconception. Okay. Because prana actually means life force. And by learning to control our breathing, we gain control over the life force. So the core, the important part is the life force, not just the breath. So if you look closely, you'll see that the scriptures, they use prana to describe various aspects of life within our body. In other words, it is the energy that is running the different systems within our body. So I don't know if Smita ji is here. Probably she's not here this time, but she asked this question last time in one of the sessions about the types of prana. So it has been documented that there are 5 types of prana which are active in our body. So the prana that is controlling the perception and the prana that helps us interact with the world, that is known as prana in general. So for example, your breathing, the circulatory system, your heart is beating, all of that depends on that prana. Then the second type of prana is apana. Apana is what takes care of excretion, like toxins are excreted as sweat or you excrete what you eat. But that force, that depends on apana. And then when you eat your food, there is a different kind of prana that helps you digest the food. And that is called samana. So it helps extract all the nutrition from the food and pass it to the whole of the body. And then the circulatory system specifically, which carries the nutrition throughout the body, that is called as vyana. So this just give an idea. And lastly, the prana that helps us grow, the ability to grow, ability to think, all of that comes from the last kind of prana called as udana. So we have prana, apana, samana, vyana and udana. These are the types of prana. So we are not consciously aware that all of these are active within us. Very few of us are even aware that there are these types of prana within us. But through pranayama, the goal of pranayama is to regulate all these five and eventually gain control over all these five. That is ultimate goal of pranayama. This means that as a seeker, we can use pranayama to withdraw the senses and focus inward, because we just discussed that even the senses, the perception, depends on one type of prana. So if you do pranayama the right way, then you will be able to control your senses through control of that prana. So like what Krishna is saying is related to this science. So, there are, even when we say breathing, breathing consists of 4 parts. The first part is called as purak, means when you draw inhalation. And then rechak is when you exhale. And then there is antara kumbhak, which means you inhale and then you hold. And then bahya kumbhak is you exhale and then hold. So these are the 4 different steps you can have in breathing. And it is documented that these kumbhaks themselves are considered advanced practices, and you have to do all of this only under guidance of some expert. You shouldn't just try to do it yourself, because sometimes it may not have the right effect. Now, Krishna is saying that the Hatha Yogis, they sacrifice the outgoing breath in the incoming breath, while some offer the incoming breath onto the outgoing breath. So what Krishna says is people are doing all of that, but how difficult are these? See, it is not like how they show in the TV advertisements, it's not like that pranayama really, So it's not like time pass that you can just do pranayama anywhere, sit in a bus and do pranayama, sit in a train and do pranayama. That's not really how it is to be done. And doing it rightly, the right way, is not really easy. And it is written in many texts that if you do pranayama the wrong way, it can also have negative effects, because these are playing with the different prana in your body. So it is a science. It's you have to do it very carefully. That is one of the reasons why Krishna says that why do all of that when you can just do bhakti? If your goal is realization, if that is your goal, then you don't need all of that. You can just do bhakti. It is very easy and it doesn't have any negative side effects. That is the beauty of bhakti. So Krishna is going to talk about more about this in the 6th chapter. Now, see, you have to also remember that Arjuna himself was a great yogi. He is an advanced yogi actually. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna himself says that that kind of yoga is very difficult, Krishna. He says it is so hard to perfect in that kind of yoga. So Krishna is saying, although it is very difficult, it is still valid. So Krishna is not discarding it. Krishna is saying, if you want to go ahead, go do it. But it is just difficult. So in my own humble opinion, the way I understand the message here is, we can use all this Raja Yoga, Hatha Yoga, whatever. We can use it to purify ourselves and make our body stronger. There is no harm in that. We can use it for that. But for spiritual evolution, we need to prioritize and focus on Bhakti Yoga. That is what is important. And that is pretty much what Krishna is saying. Krishna has never said anywhere in the Bhagavad Gita that you should not do Hatha Yoga or Raja Yoga. He has only said, see, these are all the things that people do. And this is easier, this is more difficult. That is all Krishna is saying. And then Krishna is in general talking about sacrifice. So he says, oh, best of Kuru, without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. Why talk about the next life? Krishna says, if you don't practice sacrifice, you can't live happily even in this life. Now, to understand this shloka, it is important to understand the context of Bhagavad Gita itself. See, give me a second, please. So this new place that we have moved to, we have some biker gangs here. So they will line up bikes and they'll just keep the bike on. It gives them some kind of pleasure. Those nice, noisy bikes, dar, 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 and it will, and they'll be chatting and the bike is just making noise for a long time and it makes them feel happy, So anyways, God bless them. So I was saying that Krishna is talking a lot about sacrifice, and it is important to understand the context. Like in the Bhagavad Gita itself, if you see the conversation between Arjuna and Krishna, it is taking place in the battlefield where Arjuna is full of doubts and dilemmas about the war. And here the term sacrifice doesn't merely imply physical or material sacrifice. It's a broad concept. So Krishna is talking about many types of sacrifices, like sacrifice of material possession, sacrifice of ego, sacrifice of desires, sacrifice of results of your effort. These are all the type of sacrifices Krishna is talking about. And in this verse, Krishna is teaching Arjuna the importance of performing your duty without any expectations. So he's saying, that is also a sacrifice. And that is a very elevated type of sacrifice that we can all perform and we should perform. And he's telling Arjuna, if you don't do this as a sacrifice, then you will not be happy even now. Because Arjuna has all these questions. What will happen in next birth? What will happen? He's talking about soul and all of that. And Krishna says, why you are talking about next birth? You will not be happy even in this birth if you don't follow these teachings and perform these kind of sacrifices. So Krishna is always emphasizing the need for all types of sacrifices. And he will keep repeating, like we have to sacrifice our ego. We have to sacrifice ourselves. That is the ultimate sacrifice. Atma-samarpan. Multiple scriptures will talk about this. That should be the goal. So what is important, what is Krishna reiterating, is the importance of the mindset. The mindset should always be of sacrifice, because as we discussed, bhakti means love. Love means to give. Ultimate love means to give ultimately. So that is what we have to practice regularly. Even in human love, we have to practice that. It's not about whether I am happy in a relationship. The question should be, whoever I am loving, is that person happy in this relationship? And what do I need to do to make that person happy? That is the practice we can do. And once we practice more and more, we will understand how our relationship with Krishna should be eventually. And then you will understand what Krishna means by atma-samarpan. Ultimate sacrifice for the happiness of the ultimate supreme personality of Godhead. But the common requirement for that is controlling your senses. That is why Krishna has spoken so much about the gunas and all of that, because it's very, very important. If you don't have control over your senses, there is no kind of real sacrifice that you can do. Whatever you do will be in a mode of ignorance and mode of ego. So the sense control is very, very, because all our desires are sense-based, right? We have so many desires. That's why we cannot let go of anything. We cannot do detachment. Why? We are attached. And why are we attached? Because of our senses. The need of our senses. Okay. And as long as we are stuck there, we cannot elevate and reach the higher level. So what Krishna is also saying, Krishna says that I keep telling you, you have to purify yourself. You remember, Krishna said many times that purification is required. So Krishna says, every time you do any kind of such sacrifice with the goal of spiritual evolution, you are getting a little more pure. It is purifying you. So that should be our incentive. That should be probably the only incentive. That, okay, I am doing a good deed and I am telling Krishna, I am sacrificing the results. I am doing a good deed not because I'm expecting good results. I'm doing a good deed because that is what is going to make Krishna happy. And the results, Krishna, I sacrifice to you. I think some good results will come out of this, but that I'm sacrificing to you. So Krishna says, if you can do that, every time you do this, you're going to get purified a little bit more. And eventually our purification is what is important. Correct? And then there is also a science that is described in the Vedanta that says that once you become really pure and elevated and all of that, once you reach the ultimate state, self-realization is done and all of that, then there are two possibilities. One possibility is that we can merge with the formless aspect of God, which is Brahman, or we can join the aspect of God which has a form, and that is Krishna. So according to Vedanta, these are two possibilities. It doesn't matter. Both are the same, but it is just two different ways of perceiving it. One way is it's a formless Brahman and you also just merge. It's like a drop of water has merged into the ocean. That's it. No, there is no drop. That water doesn't exist as an individual drop. It has become the ocean, Or you can say that, oh no, there is Krishna and I'm going to be around Krishna. So these are the two possibilities. Regardless, this is the ultimate goal, and this goal requires sacrifice and spiritual discipline. And Krishna says that those who do not perform such sacrifices, those who cannot have this kind of mindset, they are always going to be under the control of Maya. And Maya is going to keep throwing them again and again and again in this endless cycle of Janam, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi. It's not fun. See how Krishna is tying everything together. He talks about sacrifice, he talks about mindset, he talks about purification, he talks about Maya, he talks about self-control, he talks about liberation. And then he says how all of these are tying together. It's a science, and he talks about all these parameters. Very, very intense. So as discussed earlier, we have to use bhakti and surrender. Keep practicing until we can reach the goal of atma-samarpan. Atma-samarpan is a very beautiful goal, but unless you are an elevated soul who has already, been practicing spirituality for multiple births, it's not going to come easily just like that. It has to be practiced. Very, very important. But that should be the goal. Okay? So, in short, let us use bhakti to strengthen our jnana. That part is clear. And then let us use jnana to perform nishkama karma. That part is also clear. And then what happens when you perform nishkama karma? Your bhakti gets stronger. And then it's a feedback loop. Your bhakti gets stronger. Then in that mode of devotion, you direct your jnana in the right. So don't use jnana for all nonsense. Don't use jnana for material gains. Use jnana again to perform nishkama karma. And then nishkama karma again generates more bhakti. And like that, you'll get into that positive cycle. That's what's very, very important. So that's the only way. Like you remember Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Esa Kevalam. You remember, he said the only way is chanting the name of God in Kali Yuga. That is the only way that we can succeed. So let's keep that in mind. Now Krishna is also reminding us in 4.32 that bhakti or sacrifice, if we do it mechanically, see, this is also important. Krishna says, okay, I've told you about sacrifice. But if you start doing this sacrifice mechanically just because you are supposed to do, then it's not sufficient. It's not going to purify. He says you have to do those sacrifices consciously and use the intellect to understand why we are doing, what we are doing it. So he's putting so much emphasis there. This is one of the reasons Krishna said Manasa Puja is superior to Bahya Puja. Because in Manasa Puja, see, in Bahya Puja, you can just do things mechanically. Like every day you get up like a machine, you take a bath, and like a machine, you go near your puja room, you light the diya, you take the agarbatti. You are busy in all that, but your mind is somewhere else. Your mind is in, I don't want to get late. I want to catch the train. I want to go to office. My boss is going to say like this. I have this meeting. My client has this. That's what is going on in your mind. But mechanically, your hand is having agarbatti and all of that. So Krishna says that is not going to really purify you. So that is the reason we practice Manasa Puja, because when you do Manasa Puja, you will get into this consciousness that whatever you are practicing, you are doing it consciously. So Krishna says not just puja, even sacrifice, nishkama karma or any other sacrifice, Krishna says do it consciously with the right intent, and that is going to be powerful, and that's going to purify you very fast, very quickly. So yajna, the word yagya is used, but it's a very broad sense. It is not just talking about lighting a fire and pouring ghee. That is not the only meaning of yagya. It just yagya in broader sense, as per Krishna, it refers to any disciplined action which is done in a spirit of selflessness and as an act of duty without attachment to results. In other words, karmanye vadikarastu ma phaleshu kadachana, that is yagya. So the mindset is yagya. That is what is more important. So there are many aspects, like you can give up your desire for material greed. You can, sometimes it is possible that you have an option. You have an option to go. I'm not saying, just don't literally take what I'm saying. I'm just giving examples. So it is possible that there is a very cool action movie and you have a choice, either go to an action movie or spend an hour chanting the name, meditation, spending time with satsanga, reading Bhagavad Gita. Let us say you have this choice. And then if you consciously choose to spend time in meditation, that is also sacrifice. So such opportunities are abundant. They present themselves abundantly in life. You have to identify each such opportunity, make the right choice, and treat that as a sacrifice. Treat that also as a yajna, an offering to Krishna. So see, so easy it is, and we can practice it in so many ways. So Krishna also uses the word. Krishna says, these sacrifices are born of work. What that means is, all sacrifices, they are rooted in karma. That is what it means. See, it links back to the central theme of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is talking about nishkama karma yoga, the path of selfless action. Because every sacrifice requires action. Without action, how can you sacrifice anything, right? So that is what Krishna is saying. So when Krishna is saying sacrifice is born of work, Krishna is basically saying any sacrifice is action, and action means karma. So what is most important is it has to be nishkama karma. That is all he means here. In other words, don't do a sacrifice saying, I am doing this sacrifice so that I will get something. Then it is not real yajna. That is Krishna's message. He says the mindset is very important when you perform any kind of sacrifice. See how Krishna, you have to really appreciate Krishna's philosophy and Krishna's way of teaching. You read multiple religious books, you have the freedom, and you will see that it is very, very unique, Krishna's teaching, because Krishna's teaching never says, do this just because I am asking you to do. And Krishna will never say, if you don't do this, you are condemned. That is not his language at all. Krishna will teach you everything, and Krishna will tell you to use your intellect to understand the teaching. And Krishna will always say that be conscious of what you are doing, why you are doing, understand what you are doing. He is very empowering, the teaching that Krishna has. Just like that, when you chant the holy name, don't do it mechanically. I think we discussed this earlier also, because it is not just the sound which is important. That chanting should also be done in the bhava of sacrifice. It is a mindset. You have to do it consciously. So my humble request is, don't just focus on the number of times you are chanting. Of course, it is important. You have to chant so many times. But your goal should not just be the number. Like, one of the Gurujis that we listened to in the past used to say, these are all machine gun chanting. So he used to call them machine gun chanting. Like, at the end of the day, okay, they have done 1,000 rounds, but I don't really think they got a connect with Krishna. So don't just focus on the number. It's okay if you cannot do 100 or 1,000, whatever you can do. Each mantra, each time you say Hare Krishna, there has to be a connect. It has to be conscious, and that reaches Krishna, not just a million chants done mechanically. So this is another technique, important technique that Krishna is teaching us. So Sant Kabir also has said beautifully. Kabir says, Mala ferat jug baya, firana man ka fer, kar ka man ka dhari de, man ka fer. So he is basically saying, you have been rotating the beads of your chanting mala for many ages, but the tendencies and distractions of your mind have not changed. He says, now put those beads down and rotate the beads of the mind. So beautiful. So that is the tatparya behind what Krishna has been saying so far. I hope all this is making sense, my dear Satsang family. I think I will stop talking a little bit and let you talk. I also asked, are you able to practice Nishkama Karma in any small way? Maybe one of you can volunteer and give some example of how you are practicing Nishkama Karma. What, nobody is practicing Nishkama Karma?
You give example.
What? I give example. He's the smartest student we have, I think, I'm sure you are all doing it. You just have to be, see, this is the point. The point is you have to be conscious. Conscious of what you are learning, practice it, and practice it also consciously. And I'm sure most of you are doing it. Where is Suchita? I saw her away some time ago. Suchita ji is disappeared. She was discussing with me on WhatsApp about Nishkama Karma.
Yeah, Guruji, I'm here only.
Yeah, you were talking about what you are practicing. Maybe you can share with Satsanga.
Means for my kids, actually, what I'm doing, what we all parents, we are just bringing up them and doing all those stuff without any expectation. Means they will take care of us. In the old age, they will feed us, take care of us without keeping any expectations. So I think it's Nishkama Karma.
Excellent. Yeah,
And
she's very right. I think almost every parent does that, right? We are all pouring our love into our children, into our kids. But as long as we are not having any selfish motives, that,
And-
yeah.
And Guruji, one more thing I think means we do all chanting each and every day without any expectation. Ki Krishna will give us this, Krishna will do this thing for us. This is also Nishkama Karma.
Excellent, of course. Krishna himself says that, the intent is what is important. That is the right way to chant. The chant has to be the mode of
bhava is
sacrifice.
important.
I would like to share an
Yeah, that-
example.
Yes,
So,
Deepaji.
so this is like my son's school bus conductor. She's a Marathi lady, and her son and my son is of the same age. I mean, she just reached out to me, and then I helped her financially. And for the child, I don't know the child forever. I don't have any expectation, but she just told me the first thing is that the child is doing well. I mean, he wanted to do pharmacy, he wanted to get into military, and now he's trying to military also. And the first thing is like, I want to thank this aunt. But my intentions were that, I mean, what is very close to me is education for girls. So wherever, whoever who needs it, I don't know the child, I'm happy to reach out to them. I mean, that's my way of, I feel, I mean, no expectation. It's just the child benefits. And if I could give some education through whatever God has been kind to me, I'm happy to support. Like, so.
Excellent. Yeah, you
Yeah,
are all you are all Nishkama Karma yogis already. And this is what is important. So you have to do it consciously. So that is why I'm asking you for examples. I'm sure every one of you has some such examples of what you are doing.
And
Yeah.
another way is food. I like especially the one. I mean, my way of celebration for Diwali would be I would rather arrange something for my support staff, who the cleaners, the helpers who are there, rather than the people who have enough. The ones who don't
Excellent.
have enough. Yeah. So those are the small ways. Whichever way I can help, I would definitely go
Actually,
out of my.
Annadan is supposed to be one of the best ways of charity. So wherever possible, feed the hungry.
Yeah.
Not just humans, but also animals. But yes, so those are all acts we do. But if we can do those kind of acts more consciously and as a sacrifice to Krishna specifically, then we are actually practicing Nishkama Karma. So opportunities are abundant. So you don't have to really go to a forest or a cave to do Nishkama Karma Yoga. That is the whole message of Krishna and Bhagavad Gita. And that is why I'm encouraging you to think more on all the opportunities you have or all the things you're already doing and do more of it. I know Chitraji is also a counselor. I'm sure she also practices a lot of Nishkama Karma. Any one example, Chitraji?
I see it as a form of duty as well. So when you are performing your duty with passion, with pure intent, and no expectations of the results or how the returns are going to be, that itself is like, and consciously, even when I'm doing that, Prabhuji, I don't even remember Krishna or like saying that this is all to you. It's just like done in such a natural way that, I mean, I'm used to it now. So you're right. Like Sujita ji pointed out very rightly, there are so many things that we do in our day-to-day life we don't even realize, and I guess that's the fruit of what our satsang has brought to us. So
Excellent.
thanks
so
to
see,
you.
you are on the right path. So the progression is like this. First, rightful action. This is where Krishna starts. Okay, and rightful action means knowing what my duty is, and am I doing it? Very, very important. Then the next step, Krishna says, detachment, no attachment to results. So then you just progress. Do your duties now, but try to do it without attachment. The next step is do that consciously. So let it not be a mechanical something. Like, so in other words, you are just going to a temple and throwing food at people. I mean, yeah, it's a duty to do charity, but don't do it mechanically now. Do it consciously. That is the third step. And the final step, Krishna says, be aware of me, be in my consciousness. And say that, okay, now I'm doing this consciously and I'm consciously sacrificing the results to Krishna. That thought has to come because that is yajna. Otherwise, the difference between yajna and arson is only this. In both activities, you are lighting fire to something. But in yajna, you have the intent that you are serving God and you are sacrificing to God. So it's a progression. And if you can reach that stage, then you are in the mode of purifying yourself and evolving spiritually. And the Krishna's beautiful message is, you have innumerable opportunities in day-to-day life to practice this and become a yogi and reach me. You don't need to go to a cave. You don't need to go to a forest. You don't need to be a Swami. Nothing is required. All the opportunities are there in your day-to-day life. That is one of the most powerful messages of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita.
And two keys aspects are performing the duties with conviction and consistency.
Exactly.
They are very important in,
Yes. Very, very nicely said. Conviction and consistency. Two very, very important, Conviction is not just, so later in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna will use the word dhriti, which is more like, your willpower. So the conviction should not just be blind willpower. The conviction should be faith. That is the real conviction we need. And you have to thank all the small difficulties that come in life, because these difficulties, they strengthen our conviction. That is how it should be. They shouldn't weaken our conviction. There is a very interesting example. It just came to my mind. As a youngster, I used to really love trekking, especially to forts. And I was so fortunate that we were in the part of Maharashtra where Shivaji Maharaj and his government, they had built so many forts. And so I have spent a lot of time trekking many forts, and I have beautiful memories of all of that. But the most profound experience I had was once I went to I forgot the name of the fort. I think it was the one in Shaniwarwada, but it doesn't matter. But I went with some very knowledgeable people. They are all professional trekkers who have been doing this for many years. And I went with them. And there is one very, very learned person called Babasaheb Purandare, and his followers were also in that group. And so they explained one aspect of the fort that nobody knew. And that aspect was, they said that Shivaji Maharaj was not just a statesman. He also had very keen interest in science. So he made some forts in such a way, he used some unique combination of zinc and other materials in such a way that whenever a cannon hits that wall of the fort, it will melt for some time, absorb the cannon and stop. So instead of kind of cracking or breaking, it will kind of just melt enough to absorb the cannon. In other words, every cannon would make the wall stronger, because it is now, the cannon is now becoming part of the wall. So profound, so beautiful, right? That is the same thing here we are talking about with regards to bhakti and conviction. Is the cannons are like difficulties that come in your life. Are you going to let them shatter you, or are you going to let them strengthen you? The choice is ours. And if you learn to use them to strengthen us, that is the true meaning of conviction. And if you have that conviction, the path becomes really enjoyable and you will progress well on the goal. So this is all the message. So hope it's making sense. I think RK has his hands up. RK, if you don't mind, can you please turn on your video if you ask a question? So I know I will look in the right direction. Okay, maybe it was accidentally on. So thank you so much, my dear Satsang family.
I mean, you've answered this question, but just for the benefit of everyone, I think RK has a question. Let him
That's
ask.
fine. You can continue, Deepaji. Finish what's
He
on your
said,
mind.
Nishkam Karma Yoga. Now, and without any expectation. We all go to the office with some expectation. So, in that context, how would you explain Nishkam Karma Yoga? I think I've asked you before, and I was just trying to think. I mean, in the context of our corporate life, it's like we go there and we are paid for it. So you're
In
getting
fact,
what I'm trying to.
yeah, I think you asked this before, and
Yeah.
I will give the same answer again. It is especially more important in corporate sector that you perform Nishkama Karma. Otherwise, the corporate sector is only going to disappoint you. Corporate sector is a disappointment machine.
Right.
It can disappoint you constantly.
True. I mean, I've gone through that. I've reached that stage, like, just do your duty. I mean,
It's especially important in corporate sector because
Mm.
even as a leader, I can tell you, I have been an engineer also, I've been a leader also. From both sides, I've seen this. I can tell you that if you are focusing on a promotion, the promotion becomes more elusive. If you are desperate for a promotion, for example, and whatever you are doing is because you want that promotion, the promotion is going to actually get delayed.
yeah.
This is how it works. So that is why some great man had said, you have to pursue excellence. Everything else should follow. But if you pursue everything else, excellence won't follow. So that is the whole concept of Nishkama Karma. It applies especially to corporate sector because corporate sector can disturb you, distract you big times. It can consume a lot of your energy. So you have to be very careful in corporate sector and practice this consciously there. It is a means, not an end. So start looking at the corporate sector as a means to let you practice spirituality. And then everything will start making more sense. You'll get a different perspective there.
It helps. Definitely.
Yeah, thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay, then. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, my dear Satsang family. See you again in the next session.
Hare
Till
Krishna.
then, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.